Adunni did not pull away. She stayed in his arms, still, quiet, perfect. Exactly like Simi. "I'm so sorry," the prince whispered again, holding her tightly. "I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I was afraid you would see me as just a prince, not as the man who loves you." Adunni slowly lifted her hand, and gently touched his chest. Her voice, soft and familiar, slipped out like silk. "I forgive you." The prince smiled, a deep, relieved smile. He believed her. He believed every word. But what he didn't see was the darkness hidden behind those eyes. Far away, beneath the surface of the river, something moved. The small white goat struggled against the current, its tiny legs kicking helplessly as the water pulled it deeper. But fate was not done yet. The goat's body struck against a cluster of thick river reeds near the bank. The stems tangled around it, stopping it from drifting away completely. Slowly, weakly, it lifted its head. Its eyes, still carrying Simi's soul, filled with fear and pain. Back at the riverbank, the prince pulled away slightly, smiling at Simi. "Come," he said warmly. "We cannot stay here. The palace is waiting, and this time, no one will separate us." Adunni nodded softly. Inside, her heart burned. The palace, the crown, the life that should have been mine. Now it would be hers. All of it. That evening, the palace gates opened wide. The people cheered as the prince returned, this time, not with the dancer, but with the quiet girl from the river. "The prince has chosen love," some shouted. Others whispered in confusion. But no one dared question it. Because the king was watching. Inside the grand hall, King Oba-Odi sat stiffly on his throne, his face dark with anger. "This is the girl," he asked coldly. The prince stepped forward confidently. "Yes, father. This is the one I will marry." The king's eyes narrowed as he studied her. Adunni lowered her gaze, pretending to be humble, gentle, quiet. Exactly like Simi. But something felt off. Something the king could not explain. Still, he had no choice. The people had already seen her. And a scandal now would weaken the crown. "Very well," the king said slowly. "The wedding will proceed." Days passed. Preparations filled the palace with noise and excitement. Gold decorations. Royal garments. Feast being prepared day and night. And at the center of it all was Adunni, living Simi's life. Every step she took inside the palace filled her with satisfaction. Servants bowed to her. Guards respected her. She touched silk, gold, and jewels she had only dreamed of. But the hardest part was pretending. Pretending to be kind. Pretending to be gentle. Pretending to be someone she was not. Sometimes, when the prince spoke softly to her, when he looked at her with pure love, her expression would freeze for just a second. Because she didn't feel it. Not the way Simi did. But she smiled anyway. And he never noticed. Meanwhile, at the river, the small white goat had finally crawled out of the water. Its body trembled violently. Its legs weak. Its eyes filled with silent tears. Simi was alive. But trapped. Alone. Abandoned. She tried to cry out. But only a soft, helpless bleat escaped her mouth. No words. No voice. Nothing. She stumbled forward slowly, step by step, driven by fear, by pain. And by one burning truth. Her sister had destroyed her. Back at Babatunde's house. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Yosu frowned as she stirred the pot. "Have you noticed?" she whispered to her husband. "Since Simi returned from the river that day, she has changed. Babatunde nodded slowly. She does not sing anymore. And her eyes, Yosu added. They feel empty. Neither of them knew that the real Simi was no longer there. That night, inside the palace, the prince sat beside his Simi, holding her hand gently. After everything, he said softly, we finally have peace. Adunni looked at him. For a moment, she almost said something real. Something honest. But instead, she smiled. Yes, peace. But deep inside, there was no peace. Only ambition. Only hunger. Only darkness growing stronger with every passing day. And far away in the shadows of the forest, the little white goat lifted its head toward the glowing palace lights in the distance. Its heart pounded. Its soul screamed. I have to go back. I have to take my life back. Because the truth was not dead. And soon, it would come looking for its place. The night was deep and heavy. A cold wind moved through the forest, bending the tall trees as if they were whispering secrets to one another. And in the middle of it all, the small white goat walked slowly, painfully, step by step. Simi. Lost. Weak. Alone. Every movement hurt. Her legs trembled, her body still sore from the blow Adunni had given her. Her throat burned, not from thirst, but from the silence. She tried again to speak. To call for help. To scream her sister's name. But only a soft, broken bleat escaped her lips. Tears rolled down her small face. This cannot be my life. This cannot be how my story ends. The forest grew darker. The sounds changed. Crickets. Distant howls. And then, a low growl. Simi froze. From the shadows, two glowing eyes appeared. Then another. And another. Wild dogs. Thin. Hungry. Dangerous. They circled slowly, their teeth glinting under the faint moonlight. Simi's heart pounded wildly. She tried to run. But her weak legs betrayed her. She stumbled. Fell. The animals moved closer. Closer. This was the end. Suddenly, a strong wind rushed through the forest. The trees shook violently. The air changed. Again. The wild dog stopped. Whimpered. And slowly backed away, before disappearing into the darkness. Simi lay frozen on the ground, shaking. Then, a voice. Soft, ancient, powerful. Kindness should never end in suffering. Simi slowly lifted her head. Standing before her was the old woman. The same one from the river. But this time, she looked different. Stronger. Her presence filled the air like something not entirely human. Simi tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. The old woman stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly. I want no one, she said calmly. But I watched everything. She knelt beside the trembling goat. Your heart remained pure, even when betrayed. She reached into her cloth and brought out another small pinch of glowing powder. This is not just magic, she continued. It is truth. And truth always finds its way back. She gently sprinkled it over Simi. Light burst into the air. Warm. Blinding. Powerful. When the light faded, Simi lay on the ground again. Human. Breathing. Alive. Her hands trembled as she touched her face, her voice returned in a soft whisper. I can speak. Tears filled her eyes. She looked up quickly. Please, help me. My sister, she has taken my life. The old woman nodded slowly. I know. Her voice grew deeper. But listen carefully, child. The magic that was used against you, is not yet broken. Sime's heart sank. What do you mean? You have your form, the woman explained, but your truth is still hidden. To the world, she is you. Simi clenched her fist. Then how do I take it back? The old woman stood tall. You must return, but not as a victim. Her eyes sharpened. You must return as truth itself. Back at the palace. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. Servants rushed through the halls. Decorations covered every wall. Music filled the air. The kingdom was preparing for the royal wedding. And at the center of it all sat Adunni, dressed in royal silk. Golden beads resting on her neck. A crown being measured for her head. She stared at her reflection. Sime's face stared back. But her smile was not gentle. It was sharp. Victorious. I took everything, she whispered to herself. The crown, the prince, the life. Her fingers tightened slightly. And no one can stop me. But deep inside, something unsettled her. A strange feeling. Like someone was watching. At that same moment, far outside the palace gates, Sime stood. Now dressed in simple cloth again, but stronger. Different. Her eyes no longer soft with innocence, but burning with purpose. I'm coming back, she whispered. Not to beg. Not to cry. But to take back what is mine. The old woman's voice echoed in her mind. Truth walks slowly, but it never arrives empty-handed. Inside the palace, Adunni suddenly turned her head sharply. Her smile faded. For just a second. Her heart skipped. Why do I feel this? She murmured. Because somewhere, very close now, truth was walking toward her. And this time, it was not weak. The palace was alive. Drums thundered through the air. Dancers moved in circles. Laughter, music, and celebration filled every corner of the kingdom. Today was the wedding day. The day the quiet girl would become queen. Inside the royal chamber, Adunni sat still as servants decorated her body with gold and shining beads. Her reflection stared back at her. Sime's face. Perfect. Untouched. A lie so flawless, no one could see through it. You look like a dream, my lady, one servant said, bowing. Adunni smiled softly. Yes, she whispered. A dream. But inside, she was wide awake. Watching. Waiting. Holding tightly onto everything she had stolen. Outside the palace gates, a single figure approached. Barefoot. Calm. Unshaken. It was Sime. The real one. Her steps were slow but powerful, each one filled with purpose. The guards at the gate frowned as she came closer. Stop there, one of them barked. Who are you? Sime lifted her head. I am the bride, she said simply. The guards laughed. The bride is already inside, another one mocked. Go away before we throw you out. Sime didn't move. I am not here to argue, she said quietly. I am here to speak the truth. Something in her voice made them hesitate. Inside the palace hall, the ceremony had begun. The king sat tall on his throne. The prince stood proudly beside Sime, holding her hand gently. The entire kingdom watched in silence. Bring the bride forward, the king commanded. Adunni stepped forward gracefully, her head slightly bowed. This was it. The moment she had fought for. The moment she had stolen. Wait. The voice cut through the air like lightning. Sharp. Clear. Unshakable. Every head turned. The doors of the palace swung open. And there she stood. Sime. Gasps exploded across the hall. What? How is that possible? There are two of them. The prince's grip loosened. His eyes widened in shock as he looked between the two identical faces. Simi, he whispered. Adunni's heart slammed against her chest. For the first time, fear touched her. The king rose slowly. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Simi walked forward, her gaze locked onto Adunni. I have come to take back my life, she said. The room fell silent. Adunni forced a laugh. This is madness, she said smoothly. This girl is an imposter. She stepped closer to the prince, holding his arm. My lord, do not listen to her. She is trying to ruin our day. But her voice was not as steady as before. Simi stopped in the center of the hall. Then let the truth speak, she said calmly. She turned to the prince. Tell me, where did we meet? The prince blinked, confused. By the river, he said slowly. Simi nodded. And what song was I singing? The prince's heart skipped. His voice softened. You sang about a bird, afraid of the wind. The entire room held its breath. Simi smiled faintly. Then she looked at Adunni. Can you answer that? Adunni's lips parted. But no words came out. Her mind raced. Her chest tightened. Simi stepped closer. You stole my face, she said quietly. Her voice grew stronger. But you cannot steal my truth. The prince slowly stepped away from Adunni. His eyes filled with realization. It's you, he whispered. Adunni's word began to crack. No, she snapped suddenly. She's lying. Her calm mask shattered. Her voice rose. I am the one you brought here. I am the one who danced. I am the one the king chose. Yes, Simi said. But not the one he loved. The crowd murmured. The tension grew thick. The king's face darkened. Enough of this, he said. Someone is lying, and I will have the truth now. Simi closed her eyes. Then slowly, she raised her hand. From her palm, a faint glow began to form. The same magic. The same power. The hall filled with light. Images began to appear in the air. The river. The snake. The prince saving her. Their laughter. Their kiss beneath the trees. Gasps filled the room. The truth was no longer hidden. Then, the image changed. Adunni. The stick. The strike. Simi falling. The magic powder. The transformation. The goat. The river. The lights faded. Silence. Dead silence. Every eye turned to Adunni. Her secret was exposed. The prince stepped back as if banned. You did this, he whispered, his voice breaking. The king's face turned to pure rage. You dare bring such evil into my house, he thundered. Adunni stood frozen. Her breathing heavy. Her eyes wild. Everything was slipping away. Slowly, she began to laugh. Soft at first. Then louder. Crazier. You think I am the villain, she said, her voice shaking. I fought for everything I had. I bled for her. I protected her. Tears streamed down her face. And she took it all from me. Her voice turned dark. I just took it back. But no one moved. No one defended her. Because deep down, they all knew. She had gone too far. Simi stepped forward one last time. Her voice quiet. But powerful. Sister, you didn't lose everything today. She paused. You lost yourself. And in that moment, the entire kingdom watched as truth stood tall. And lies finally fell. The palace stood in silence. Heavy. Unforgiving. Every eye was fixed on Adunni. The girl who once danced like fire, now stood surrounded by the ashes of her own choices. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Tears streamed down her face, but her eyes still burned, caught between regret and stubborn pride. King Oba-Adi rose slowly from his throne. His presence alone made the air tighten. "What you have done," he said, his voice low but shaking with anger, "is not just betrayal." He stepped forward. "It is evil." The word echoed. Like a final judgment. The prince stood still, his heart heavy. He looked at Adunni, not with love, not with anger, but with something deeper. Disappointment. "You could have had a place in this kingdom," he said quietly. "You could have been honored, respected." His voice broke slightly. "But you chose deception." Adunni laughed weakly, shaking her head. "Honor," she whispered bitterly. "Respect." Her eyes turned to Simi. "She was always loved for nothing, while I had to fight for everything." Her voice rose, filled with pain. "I was the strong one. The one who protected. The one who sacrificed." She stepped forward slightly. "And in the end, I got nothing." Simi's eyes filled with tears. She walked closer, slowly, carefully. "No, sister," she said softly. "You had everything." She placed a hand over her heart. "You had me." The words landed like a quiet storm. Adunni froze. For the first time, her anger cracked. Memories rushed back. 2 little girls laughing under the iroko tree. Sharing food. Sleeping side by side. Protecting each other from the world. Adunni's lips trembled. I only wanted us to rise," she whispered. "But you chose the wrong path," Simi replied gently. "And now, you must face it." The king raised his staff. "The law of this land is clear," he declared. "Those who use dark magic to harm others must face judgment." The guard stepped forward. The entire hall held its breath. But then... Wait. The voice was soft, yet powerful enough to stop everything. All eyes turned. Simi stepped forward again. "Please, let me speak." The king narrowed his eyes but nodded. "Say what you must." Simi looked at Adunni. Not with anger. Not with hate. But with something far stronger. Love. "Punishment will not fix what is broken," she said quietly. Her voice trembled, but she continued. "My sister has already lost everything, her place, her honor, and herself." She took a deep breath. "I do not want revenge." The crowd murmured. "I want justice, with mercy." The king studied her carefully. "You would show mercy, after what she did to you?" Simi nodded. "Yes." She turned back to Adunni. "Because if I become like her, then this story truly has no meaning." Silence. Deep. Powerful. The king finally spoke. "Very well." He lifted his staff again. "Adunni of Ilé-Adó, your crime is great. But because of your sister's mercy." He paused. "You will not be destroyed." A breath of relief moved through the crowd. But, his voice hardened, "You will be stripped of all titles, all honor, and banished from this kingdom." Gasps filled the hall. "You will leave this land, and you will live with the consequences of your actions." The guard stepped forward. Adunni didn't resist. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She simply stood there. Broken. Empty. As they led her away, she turned one last time. Her eyes met Simi's. For a moment. No words. Just silence. And something unspoken between them. Then, she was gone. Days later. The palace was calm again. But different. Quieter. Wiser. The prince stood beside Simi under the same sky that had once witnessed their first meeting. No lies this time, he said softly. Simi smiled. No lies. Their wedding was simple. No grand deception. No forced choice. Just truth. Just love. Back in the village, Babatunde and Yosu watched proudly as their daughter stepped into her new life. Not as a stolen queen, but as a chosen one. And far away, beyond the hills, a lone figure walked. Adunni. No crown. No glory. Just the weight of her choices. And the memory of the sister she lost. But even in exile, a small seed remained. A chance. That one day, she might find her way back. Not to power, but to herself.